Wow, this is a perfect example of the effects of Mejorar la Raza in Latin America. All right, so you're saying here, the interesting part of all of this is that in a society where race acts as a tool of measurement, you, not your father or grandpa, would not be considered an Afro-Latino. Look at yourself and reflect on all this information that you are providing about blackness that you would not meet. Don't you think that it is very ignorant of you to insert yourself in this issue, to say, yes, I, a person of light complexion with Eurocentric features, experience the same thing as someone with a darker complexion. I too experience discrimination based on my skin color, condescending of ridicule. Well, first and foremost, I at no time, across any of my content or any place for that matter, have ever stated that my life experience has been one like a person of a darker complexion. I have not lived a life of discrimination. I have not lived a life where I have experienced racism. I have experienced xenophobia, yes, but I have not experienced racism. I've never been discriminated against because of the color of my skin. So I've never claimed to have lived a black experience where I am discriminated against. I don't have control over the way that people identify me. I can only be completely aware of who I am. And in saying that, I also say, which I've said before, I'm completely aware that to a lot of people, I am racially ambiguous. But it's up to me to tell people who I am and to identify myself, not up to other people. And I do not need to conform to your idea of who I am, who I'm supposed to be, or how I'm supposed to identify myself, especially when I know where I come from and I know my roots. The thing that so many people like you, and especially people within my own Dominican background, cannot seem to grasp is how is it that I have the audacity to identify with a concept of quantifying blackness outside of Dominican cultural lens, or of Latino lens as a whole, for that matter. It boggles a lot of people's minds. You have a problem with me, a Latino person, someone of Dominican background, identifying with being a black person in the diaspora, identifying with being an Afro-Latina. You have a problem with that because of the way that I look. Because we all understand, I mean, most people, I would think by this point, know that race is not real. Biologically, there is no race. Rather, race is a social construct, and people assign race to themselves and others based upon how they look. However, there's more to that, especially when you look at the Black American community, when you have people that look like me or present whiter than me who identify and claim blackness, because it's not just color, it's also culture, it's also heritage, it's also customs and lived experiences, all of those things. You can't just look at one part of it and say, okay, because of this, you're not black. The whole experience of being black in the United States has a lot to do with how black people, despite their presentation, black Americans, were able to band together under the banner of blackness. That never happened in Latin America. And when you look at Mejorar la Raza, what you understand is these two opposing ideas between Latinos and Black Americans. And everything that you're saying is just, really highlights that. It just shows the effects of it. Where Black Americans were taught to honor their ancestors, no matter what they look like, by still identifying with their blackness, claiming being black, claiming being a part of the black community, regardless of their presentation, because that is how you honored your ancestors, who could never escape their blackness, who could not hide from their blackness, who were treated differently because of their blackness. That was the way to honor their ancestors. This was a way to always keep that connection and honor, that even though I may be living a completely different life and I don't have that struggle that you had, I was not in bondage like you were, or because I look lighter and more of my Euro features are showing up, right? And I really don't have to live that life, but I still choose to, because I want to represent those ancestors that fought to live, that survived, that fought for me, right? So the principle of that and understanding that when it comes to the Black American community, it's complete opposition to the whole concept of Mejorar la Raza that taught people in Latin America for generations, you have to better your race. you are black, you are at a disadvantage. You have to look for ways to get away from your blackness. So you look for a whiter mate, and you look forward to those mixed children that will present more of that whiteness. And you look forward to those grandchildren also seeking whiter mates until you get to at least the second or third generation. Then you know by then, if we keep marrying white, that is how we'll be identified. That is what we will be known as. That is how we can live. And this black ancestor that fought so hard, that went through a whole different experience than you did, gets erased because nobody is representing them anymore. Because people are caught up on phenotypical presentation. And that is the disconnect between Black Americans and Latinos. It's a whole different concept, a whole different way of thinking. So you can continue to remain bothered by somebody like me, but I'm going to continue to live in my truth, and I'm going to continue to honor my Black Dominican father and my Black Dominican grandfathers. I'm going to honor them, and I'm going to claim them in my present right now, and I'm going to continue to stand and say that I am Afro-Indigenous, I'm Afro-Latina, I'm Afro-Dominican, and people like you are just going to have to deal with it.